Okay, there we go. Hey, what's up, Street Talks? Eric from the Eric from Street Photography blog. So we're gonna rip off Jerry Seinfeld. This is Street Photographers in Cars, episode number 1.
Drinking water.
Cindy in the back and bigheadtaco and yeah. So Take.
Yes, sir.
So we did a video last year, and you know, you're somebody who's one of the most enthusiastic, passionate photographers I know. What's changed with you in your photography over the last year?
What has changed? I think I'm still doing a lot of the same things, but maybe I know more where I want the end result to be.
Yeah.
And we talked a little bit about it. I want to be an influencer in the industry. Before, I think I was so focused on producing pictures that it's in the end it's like, but why are you doing street photography? Why are you taking pictures of your shoes? Why are you doing all these things? And in the end I thought about it thinking, why am I reviewing cameras? Like, where's the connection between all my different brands and all the different things that I do? And then I realized I want to be an influencer like yourself. The industry or the photo, the genre of the photography that we both love, which is street photography. And that can mean many different things for different people, but you know, taking photography on the streets, and you try not to orchestrate too many things. I want to be one of the guys that helps people to take it seriously, and especially in a city like Vancouver. It's not really. I mean, you see how beautiful Vancouver is, but there isn't that many strong street photographers. You know, I guess in a city like New York is the same. People are really busy trying to make money, and that's important. You should do that. But they don't. There's no investment in time in pursuing the art of street photography, where there is no money involved in taking a picture. So I've run into some really well-known photographers that say, "Why do you do what you're doing? Like, how do you make money off of Instagram? How are you making money off of this? Why do you do this?" And I was as confused with their questions as they were with my idea of what I'm doing. And I'm thinking, what do you mean? Don't you just take pictures because it's fun? Why wouldn't you take a picture of something fantastic? You know, they're thinking often is maybe they're in that mindset of like, well, if I don't make money, if I'm not shooting for Audi or BMW, and I love those brands anyway. If I'm not doing these commercial shoots, why would I waste my time? They never verbalize it that way, but they see that 80% of my energy is pursuing this art. And in a way, I feel like Bill Cunningham, you know. But I didn't make millions making hats. You know, I know that he's famous for in the fashion industry. So money-wise, of course, I'm struggling financially, but in terms of art, I'm just so happy of what I've been able to produce photographically, and as well being able to help people on YouTube and through my blog and through Instagram how to become better photographers. I was actually very inspired by your idea of, I'm not sure if this is still true, but your pictures are all, you don't care who uses them.
It's the open source.
Open source.
So people go download my full-res photos for free.
And for most commercial photographers, that seems crazy, right? It's like, no, I own this image. These are my rights. When I sell them to Audi, I have these limits of how they can use it. And that, I mean, that is the industry of photography, and that needs to exist. But I don't see how they can't compartmentalize that and say, but I do this other thing with my smartphone that's not for commercial photography. This is just pure art, and I want to pursue this with passion and with no limits of somebody telling me what I need to shoot and what not to shoot. And so I'm like you in that way, and my pictures on Instagram, if anyone asks for it, I'll give it to them. If I take a picture of someone, they say, hey, can you email? I actually often write down the email addresses and phone numbers, and I'll send it to them. And I don't care. I said, hey, if you post it on social media, it'd be great if you give me credit. But if you decide to use it for an album cover for your next whatever, then you know, go ahead. I don't really care. My gallery is Instagram, and that's kind of what I've come to accept, and not monetizing it.
Well, speaking of Instagram, so it's funny. So, you know, you've done a lot of testing for different cameras. Like, you've been playing with the Leica Q, the X100T, the Ricoh GR, the Leica T, so forth. But you kind of say that at the end of the day, your preferred camera for street photography and even commercial photography is iPhone. So can you tell us? And
iPhone does not send me anything. Those guys do. You know, they're just locked down. So I'm not trying to do something dangerous here.
Make sure we don't get into accident.
That's right.
Nice.
There you go.
The central power.
Center stick. It's all about driving stick.
Driving the stick. Okay.
sorry. So what was the question again?
So tell us the benefit of shooting with an iPhone versus all these other, because you've shot with a lot of different fancy cameras.
And people tease me because sometimes I'll have a $10,000 Leica camera with a $5,000 lens, and I'm chasing people with my iPhone.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are like, why don't you just use the real camera? But to me, that's a different world. I
compartmentalize.
Yes.
Compartmentalize.
Yes.
Yeah.
I do that where that's my review. I do YouTube videos, I do my articles, but for my own personal work, I force myself within the limits. I call it painting, like Picasso painting with crayons. You just tell somebody who is very prolific and great at what they do, but you use a simpler tool and create something unique using that simple tool. So when I use my iPhone to take a picture versus a real camera, I find that the pictures turn out different. Even my mindset is different. Even interacting with the screen, instead of a shutter this way, I'm touching this way. I find that even I can talk to people and take a picture and still keep on continuing to have eye contact. So even my mindset, the way I shoot, and even the way that the people react to me is different. So when I put a big camera in someone's face, and I review mirrorless, so they're not that big. But even still, compared to having an iPhone in your face, people are used to having smartphones, either in front of them or having it pointed at them. So I find that time that it takes them to feel comfortable with me around them to take their picture is shortened. So within 30, 45 seconds, they're very comfortable with me shooting pictures of them. Where a regular camera, it might take 2-3 minutes before they start, and they can even hear the shutter, right? Click, 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 click. They know when when I'm taking a picture. So I find there's this intimacy. We do use a smartphone. So in the end, I don't have an exact formula of why the pictures turn out better. They just do. Often I will do both, especially during that shoot I showed you at the carpet store. I actually did have my real cameras with me, but my smartphone pictures turn out better. And the only thing I can explain why is that there's a chemistry between the photographer and the subject. There's just whatever the chemistry is, and I have better chemistry when I use a smartphone. And I don't know if it's just because of me or it's me and the subject that they're very comfortable with the smartphone, and that my comfortableness, their comfortableness, it comes together, and we just end up taking better pictures.
And also you're very prolific on Instagram. What's your Instagram handle?
At bigheadtaco.
Nice. So at bigheadtaco. So for people who not that familiar with Instagram, or let's say they're starting off, two-part question. First part question: knowing what you do now about Instagram, if you started Instagram all over again, what advice would you have given yourself? And second part of the question is, what are some of the common mistakes you think people make on Instagram?
I think I made all of them.
All the mistakes?
Yeah, one of them is don't post too often.
What's too often?
Sometimes let's say you're at a festival.
Yeah.
You end up posting 8 pictures in like 1 hour. You actually, if you notice, a lot of people, they will follow 200, 300, 400 people, which means 200, 300, 400 people times 8 to 20 pictures a day. We're talking thousands of pictures. They don't have the time to look at it, and after a while, you actually irritate them. I know some people actually will unfollow someone who get bombarded with too many pictures at once. Some of the most, you don't want to go for just followers, but those that have 60,000, 80,000, 100,000 followers, 1 million followers, unless they're famous people, right? Unless you're famous, other than that actually produce great artwork, they know what time of day to post. So whatever their time zone is, and they have an idea of who are their followers, and then they know, okay, well, Sunday afternoon is a great time to post. Actually, Sunday morning is a good time to post, and Sunday night is also.
Why is Sunday morning, Sunday night?
Because people are more relaxed. They wake up Sunday, they have more time. The first thing they do is they look at their Instagram. But if you post, let's say Sunday afternoon, people are usually busy doing things. I find actually Saturdays are not a good day for Instagram. I get the lowest likes. Friday nights often end up not being high likes because people are busy Friday nights.
They're actually out like having fun with their friends.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they're busy Instagramming themselves and posting, right? So you kind of need to know when you should post. If you want to be more, in the end, Instagram is you want critical mass. You want as many people to see what you're posting. So that's sort of the non-art part of it, right? Meaning it's nothing about the pictures, just understanding when to post, and that's made a difference for me. And also, people tend to post. I've seen very good photographers, but their Instagram pictures are very casual. Like I have a separate account for my personal. I actually have 4 or 5 different accounts. And when I'm experimenting with something that I haven't done before, even now, I showed you my mirror effect, right? My Taco Cat Redivider account. I'll just start a different account because my regular followers, I find they don't really like my experimental stuff. And so I don't want to force it on them, so I started a different account. But I find that knowing what you want, so I was really random when I first started. Pictures of me eating lunch with my wife, then there's a dog, and then I was kind of all over the place. I am still a little bit all over the place, but if you look at a really good Instagram feed, sometimes it's like color. You notice that everything is kind of overexposed in white. You know, you can sort of get a visual palette of the 9 images, or depending how your smartphone is, and you get a quick idea of what style they are. If they're all over the place, some are really good quality, some are bad quality, they're taking a picture off of a magazine, and the other ones is nature. If it's all over the place, there's no visual theme, and people kind of think this guy's all over the place. And so when you look at my first few pictures, it is all over. But now that you start seeing there's a certain style of how I post-process and certain things I tend to like, and then you start seeing a pattern. So then, you know, like you get your photo books, and you look. After a while, you start seeing Fred Herzog's style. You're like, wow, you get the same sort of colors. He's using a certain type of film, or even Bresson, or you can even see the evolution of their style as they get older. So you want that sort of a thematic, if you want to use Instagram in that way. I know there are those that it's just for family and friends, and that's great. I have that account. But as a serious photographer who wants to be seen and known for doing something, you need to sort of, even though you really want to post something, if it doesn't work with that theme that you've worked with, I wouldn't post it. I would post it on a different account.
So consistency is really important.
Consistency.
What do you think about using? Because I think your Instagram feed is mostly squares, right?
Yes.
So what do you think about using apps that create rectangles, like Square Ready for the iPhone, or Square, Square, where you can make a rectangular photo a square photo.
Oh, I see.
And you add the white borders, the black borders. What do you think about those?
Well, personally, I don't do. I may have done that a couple times in the beginning. But again, if you do that with every picture. Be consistent. Again, the consistency. But I find that when you shoot different formats, it's getting hot back there, isn't it, Cindy?
A little bit.
Can you maybe roll down the window, Cindy?
Make it loud.
Oh no, just roll down the window. That's okay.
That's fine.
Okay. So we lived in Vietnam.
It's way harder than this, Cindy, in Vietnam. I have no problem with it. I just think that as a photographer, if you shoot 35 mil, so 2x3 format. If you shoot whatever format you're used to, try shooting square. It changes the way you see the world. You know, just like when you change a focal length, all of a sudden, like, that's why I don't like zooms. Zooms, people use it wrong. They just use it to crop, right? Like, I love that car, and they just zoom in. Well, you don't even think about perspective. They don't think about where they stand affects how the background and the foreground changes, right? And even with photography, when you start seeing things square, all of a sudden, like for instance, I love shooting cars, but they're they're longer. So people assume, oh, when I shoot a car, the panoramic's better. But now that I shoot a car square, I'm very concerned about what's above the car. So now I'm conscious of what's above. It's so easy to just crop and say, no, I'm just focusing on the car. But it changes the way you see the world. So as I look around, I see things in square. And I find that you can tell a picture that was shot 3x2 and then change into a square later. Not always, but if you do it all the time, after a while you start to see that it affects their art. And so I would challenge anyone who shoots 2x3 regularly for Instagram, try shooting square. Just try it. It'll change the way you see the world.
Are there certain so you shoot with an iPhone 5S? 5S. So are there certain iPhone apps you recommend people check out for photography?
Yeah, everyone has their favorites. I use Photoshop Express Camera Plus with the actual plus. I use Visco, like everyone does, for some of their filters. I use Snapseed. I just started using Snapseed. I really like I call them different levels. There's the first level, meaning contrast, brightness, highlight, shadows, sharpness. To me, that's the fundamental basics. And then after, you start adding filters. So certain apps are great for filters. I find Visco is great for filters. Camera Plus is great for filters. But I find that Photoshop Express and Snapseed is great for the first level of editing, sharpening, getting the exposure right.
Yeah.
Then after that, you can decide to add filters later. You can add filters later. Another thing I do is I call it looping. Editing inside Instagram.
Yeah.
And then sending it either to yourself, and then it drops a high quality picture into your camera roll, right? Or you put it in airplane mode, right? And then you hit send, and then it says error. But it's already dropped the image into your camera roll. And then after you say cancel, and then you get out of airplane mode. Now you have a good copy. So actually Instagram has a really good post-processing. Like I talked about the initial post-processing sans filter.
Yeah.
I like it. And then I use Camera Plus. They have a thing called info. You import the image into Camera Plus, and you can actually look at how much the image has degraded in terms of megabytes.
Oh wow.
So you can do Snapseed, Photo Express, and Instagram, same image, post-process the same way, and then import it into Camera Plus and see how much the image is degraded. Is it still 2448 by 2448? Is it 2.3 megabytes, or is it down to like 300 kilobytes?
Wow.
Because it degrades. So on a smartphone, you see its size, but a lot of people look at Instagram on like iPads, or they look at it on tablets, right? A great picture on an iPhone sometimes looks horrible on an iPad. So I care about how people see it, not just on a smartphone. So sometimes I will even post-process it in different orders. Like if I do Snapseed first and then Visco, or if I do Visco first and then Snapseed, I try to see which one degrades the image more. So a lot of the filters actually add a lot of weight in terms of megabytes. So it ends up being a 6 megabyte file, but it doesn't add to the resolution. So it's like destructive editing, post-processing.
That's so interesting.
Yeah, so I've done all these weird experiments. I do workshops on this to teach people how this works. So I found the perfect combination for myself of how to post-process it. Like some people think, wow, it doesn't even look like it's been post-processed, because I try not to do extreme, like extreme HDR, extreme contrast, extreme. You do it to the point where it doesn't look like you did anything to it. Yeah.
So with post-processing, you think less is more?
Yeah, when you can't, like in some effects, you do want an extreme effect, but other times, you're using it as a cheap trick, meaning the image isn't great on its own, and now you're trying to compensate by vignetting and adding all this punch. In the end, it's still a weak image.
Yeah.
So use it sparingly. Sometimes people use it as a badge of honor. They say no filter.
Yeah.
I don't think
that's like reverse snobbery.
Yeah, because I think you know what. Film, like people say, oh, in the old film days you didn't have to do it. They didn't realize, you know how much control that the photo developer had over your picture. Yep. How much they had the filters, right? And they can figure out the exposure. You had no control. We have our own control. We can. I didn't realize. Oh, I hope nobody gets mad at me.
This is Canada. Okay.
Oh yeah, but this is Vancouver too.
Oh yeah.
We'll see. I'm gonna wave at this taxi guy. Yeah, thanks.
Nice.
Yeah, the power of being able to create your own.
So if you're hot, you can keep the window open too.
Yeah,
it's a little bit warm.
Yeah, to be able to create your own visual look, it was just impossible 20 years ago. You bought Kodachrome, it just looked like Kodachrome. If Fred Herzog could have created his own chemistry to create his own look, I'm sure he would have. You know, like I want the cyan a little more, and I want to tone down this. We have that power, so create your own style. And then after a while, people, you know, there's some great Instagram photographers that you look at the pictures and they all consistently have the same post-processed look.
Who are some Instagram followers that you love?
Oh man, I'm just trying to think here.
Off the top of your head.
Fraction Street. He's a Toronto fella. Yeah, he's awesome.
Fraction, PHRACTION.
Yeah.
_ Street.
Molly Porter.
Molly Porter.
Yeah.
Sorry, continue. So what were we saying before?
Cindy. Making JPEGs, creating your own style, and then we're talking about who are the influencers on Instagram.
Influencers. Okay.
Yeah, I wish I can remember all their names. I feel so bad. There's quite a, like I said, oh yeah, I know what I was saying.
Yeah. I
try to keep the people that I follow on bigheadtaco to under 50.
Wow.
The reason, so like I said, I have like 3 or 4 other accounts. I don't follow my wife. I don't follow my siblings. It's very.
Aren't they offended?
It's very democratic. I tell people, when people go to bigheadtaco, often people want to see, okay, but who do you like? I love your style. Who influences you? Just kind of like what you're asking me. Well, look at who I follow. These are the people that when I go through Instagram, I'm not looking at family baby pictures, pictures of my nieces and nephew. There's a time and a place for that. But my Instagram account on bigheadtaco is my professional portfolio. It's my art gallery. I take it very seriously. So who I follow, it's very democratic. If after a while you're not producing the shots that I like in this format. For instance, I followed Magnum for a while and I'm thinking, oh, you're just rehashing the images from the stuff, like none of them took the pictures on their smartphones. You're taking classic pictures, which I love, but I'm like, but I don't want to see it on Instagram. I'll see that on your website. I'll see that in your books. But on Instagram, I want to see what you shot 10 minutes ago. I want to see what you shot recently. And that's what I want to see. So certain accounts, I stopped following them when I realized there's nothing creative. And I find that there are a lot of non-photographers are making some of the most creative images on Instagram. And some of the most powerful photographers are horrible with Instagram. They don't understand I don't think it's because their pictures are horrible. I don't think they understand how Instagram works and what people are looking for.
So like really famous photographers, like what are some things that you see them doing which you would advise them against doing, for example?
Don't just, I see businesses do it in a different way where they have a sale. Facebook, that says sale. Twitter, they'll say sale. And then Instagram, they say sale. I'm thinking, well, if you are a fan of that brand, like say you're following Gucci, they're being marketed 3 times the same ad, right? That's not what Instagram is for. Instagram, I find, is like the back door. So you want to, like, for instance, so you're a big brand like Gucci, you want to use it to maybe have unique pictures behind the scenes that people typically don't see. So preparing for the sale or designing the, you know, like go to the Italy factory or something and show the artists that are actually designing the clothes. It's like a back door into your business or into your brand. And you're showing people, like, for brands doing it. For photographers, I would recommend, look, if you're a fan of some of these great photographers, you're already following them on Facebook, you're already following them on Twitter, you're already following all these different things. So why don't you create something unique? And I think it shows their how quick they are. You know, so when someone's posting a picture they shot 15 years ago on Instagram, and that's all they're doing, and this is what I did 15 years ago. Like when people say, hey Take, what's your portfolio, what have you done recently? I say, go to my Instagram, you see what I shot 10 minutes ago. And you'll see, you know, sometimes there are days where it's 3 or 4 days old, or there's like Throwback Thursday, Flashback Friday. But even Flashback Friday, Throwback Thursday, I'm going back 6 months, not 6 years. I want people to see what I've been doing recently. And it's a reflection of who, you know, they say in artwork, often if you want to know the artist, look at their work and you'll see them in their work. I find that Instagram reflects the current state of any artist, photographer, sculptor, painter, and they will show what they're doing right now. It's all about the now. So when someone posts, I think people feel not betrayed, but if you're trying to feed them a story that's not true. So when a famous photographer goes to the Himalayas and he has the stuff he's shooting and he's going to eventually post it for a magazine or for his website, but they want to show a picture of him putting on his hiking boots and still make it artistic, right? Not just like a crummy shot, but they're still thinking in the mode of, I'm going to create something creative and on the moment, nothing orchestrated, no studio lights, no director of photography, you know, nothing. And I'll just take it and still be prolific and yet artistic. To me, those are influencers. And there's a few people like that where, like Fraction, he's in the movie industry, I think. He does a lot of post-processing, editing work for the movie, TV show industry. All his pictures are him walking to work and back. That's it. That's what majority of his pictures are. So they're always downtown Toronto, or if he goes on a vacation to, you know, Nova Scotia, he'll post those pictures, right? But I think that's great. That's why I love his photography. Nothing's contrived. That's his route to work, and you can sort of see him in the pictures. You know, his style. You can kind of like, you almost kind of know who he is. And I actually brought him onto the Street Vlogs project with the Flu Vlogs. I was the first street vlogger.
So what? Tell us about the project.
I approached the Flu Vlog, which is a Vancouver fashion and shoe brand company, and I thought that those shoes were had street cred. And, you know, street photography, street cred shoes. I said, let's do something. But they said, well, you know what? We're an international company. So that's great that you do these street photography pictures, but we're in 15 cities around North America. So we can't just showcase your shoes. And I said, okay. well, how about this? How about for 3 weeks you showcase a street photographer in all 15 cities that there is a Flubog store. And so after Vancouver, we went to Toronto. So I helped curate the account every once in a while. So they say, hey, Take, do you know someone in Chicago? Do you know someone in... So the next city, they said, what's your idea? And I said, how about Toronto? And they said, who do you like in Toronto? I said, Fraction. So I approached him through... So that's how we know each other. Nice. It's just through Instagram and through... we DM'd each other and I said, hey, I'm doing this project with Flubog Shoes. Would you be interested? And he said, sure, love to do it. So me, him, and I feel so bad. And it was just and another girl in New York. I think we're the first 3 street vloggers.
Wow.
Yeah. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, and so that's where he's one of the 50. And when I get to 50, and then I want to add a 51.
You gotta get rid of someone else.
I audit and I say I'm sorry. And sometimes if I still really like them, I'll transfer them to my personal account. And I'll transfer saying, I still like your work, but these are my top 50 influencers, and I'm sorry, but I have to remove you. I feel bad, but I do.
Well, so I did this recent experiment where, when I first started Instagram, I just did auto import following people you follow on Twitter and something like that.
Yeah.
So I just ended up following on, without really knowing it, just a bunch of random people that I didn't really know. And I didn't really have the chance to ever curate my Instagram feed.
Yeah.
And so recently, I've actually unfollowed everybody.
Oh, I see.
As an experiment to start from zero. And also part of it was I was spending too much time on Instagram looking at images, and I'm like, I gotta kind of cure myself of being so addicted to it. And so I'm following 0 people at the moment.
Yeah.
And like, I think that's a great compromise where you cap your certain number and you're like, okay, I'm only following 50 people, and it's nothing personal, but it's one of those things that I think with social media less is more, because if you just look at too many images, that could be detrimental to your creativity as well, right?
Of course. And this is specifically Instagram, meaning I want to see what are the trends on Instagram, and so I want to see what the top creatives are doing in Instagram. And that's not who has the most followers. I've unfollowed someone with 1 million followers and followed someone that only has 600. So if you look through my feed, there's a guy, RS79. He's a great street photographer in Singapore. He's a young guy. So look him up, RS79. He only shoots film.
Wow.
And so he doesn't square up his images. He develops I think he even buys bulk rolls.
Nice.
And then he does all his own home developing. He's a great photographer, and he has maybe 300 followers.
Wow.
And I would drop someone from Magnum just to because he really inspires me to shoot better pictures.
So one common misconception I think people have just in general is that the goal of Instagram is to have as many followers as possible, and I've fallen into that trap that like I upload an image and it doesn't have as many likes as I want it to, and sometimes I'm like, I suck or whatever. Can you share about like what are your personal thoughts and philosophies about followers, likes, comments, and so forth, and the numbers?
I'm also like, I love music.
Yeah. And
I'm actually more like, I consider myself more of a musician than a photographer. But it's the same industry. It's the same problem with music. Like you want to be artistic and do what you want. Yeah. But you also have to appease. Your fans. So you got your classics that everyone wants you to play, right?
Yeah.
So you need that balance. Like, for instance, one of the things I shouldn't say this. No, I'll say this.
Say it.
People call it camera porn. I don't like the term. I don't like that the word porn used.
Yeah.
But in a way, I maybe use camera lust. I just hashtag camera gear.
Yeah.
But people love the pictures that I take of cameras.
Yeah.
And they get the most likes. And then something when I think this is a great homage to Herzog or Bresson. And then it gets very little likes. I actually get kind of angry thinking that picture of that Leica is not a great picture, and yet everyone's liking it. And then all of a sudden I do this great street portrait and nobody likes it. I get frustrated. But then sometimes I do look and I think, you know what though? Ryan said, hey, great shot. When the influence, and this is where a little bit, Eric, maybe I can give you some advice.
Yeah.
Follow some of the influencers. So you have 0 followers. pick the guys that you think, wow, this guy inspires me, because it's great to get feedback from a guy like Ryan.
Yeah.
You know, and when I see, even like sometimes even Leica and Fujifilm will they will like the pictures that I take of their brands. But sometimes I will take a picture that is not of, like recently I did a shot of Leica and Fuji together, and Leica still liked the picture. You know, or sometimes I'll take a picture that's not even Leica related, but they will still like it. And I think, wow, someone at Leica, I don't know who it is. I'm not sure if it's Tom Smith. Is it you, Tom? If it is, thank you, Tom. But if not, whoever it is, they're still liking the picture. So I'm like, wow, like, you know, they still like the pictures. And that's where I feel more encouraged. Like, wow, there are people that appreciate it. So it's not just the masses of people that like, but the people that you look up to also follow you back, and they like you back. Then it's like, you know what? I'm happy with 50 likes. You know, that picture with 300 likes because I have a Leica Q in there, that's great. And I try to still do my own unique style. Like, one of the things I do is I have a hashtag shoes and cameras. So I take a picture of a camera, but I always include my feet in it, because I love sneakers and shoes. And so I try to be a little bit different, even with product shots, and be a little bit quirky. But even then, I have to push myself artistically. And even if it doesn't get much likes, I say, you know what, but I know that there are other influencers looking to me, and I'm their influencer, and they don't want to just see pictures of cameras, right? So if all I did was cameras, I know I'll get more followers and more likes. But as I approach different brands like Fluvox Shoes, I did a project with Hobo Woodworks, I've done projects with Yankat Carpets, they're looking at my overall portfolio, and I'm trying to attract commercial clients as well. And if all I'm doing is pictures of cameras, it limits the clientele I'm attracting, and it also limits great photographers that are looking to be influenced if I'm just doing what people want me to do. So you do have to balance that. I mean, I do review cameras. I need to take pictures of the cameras, and it's part of my brand of telling people, hey, I'm reviewing the Leica Q, check out my YouTube video. So I need to do that. But so it is that balance. You got to find the balance of pleasing others, but also pleasing yourself.
So I have a question for you. So after you die,
yes.
Right? So after you die, what do you want to be remembered for in terms of your photography or life or whatever that may be?
I want to be known for, let me just see here, sorry. Probably the idea of Picasso with crayons. The idea that here is this photographer that had the ability to shoot with Leica or Fujifilm, but he purposely went out of his way to pick up a rock, you know, or the most mundane. Like, imagine giving a guy a rock and then he builds a house. You're like, and I built this house with this piece of rock and this piece of bone, right? And I think Jack White said this musically, of the White Stripes, and he's done all these different bands and stuff. He said he loves pushing himself artistically, so he would purposely make sure his keyboard is an extra 10 feet away.
Wow.
So it makes him run faster to the keyboards as he does his keyboard solo, and then he runs back to his microphone just to push himself musically so that he's always on top of his game.
That's awesome.
And so for photographing myself, same thing. You know, even with my iPhone, you know, that it has that multi-burst mode where you can shoot whatever it is, 30 frames per second. I never use it, and people are like, why not? There's a guy walking across, why would you just go one? Why don't you just go brrr, like that? Because I do shoot with film cameras, and I shoot with other types of cameras, and so when I won't say cheat, when I use that to get that type of picture, it becomes a crutch, right? You get used to that speed, and you expect everything to be that fast. But like you with your film, actually I was surprised how fast you crank it. You never gain that skill if you just focus on technology to get the shot. Like, you know, I know people are like, I'm bored with my pictures, it must be my lens, I'm gonna buy a new lens to inspire myself. Buy a book, you know, like try a different style, do something. Don't just think a lens is gonna fix your rut in being able to get great pictures. And so by choosing something so mundane as a smartphone as my primary tool for photography, I think it's made me a better photographer.
That's awesome.
So to be able to say that, I think that's what I want to be rememred for.
All right, cool. And to wrap things up, so where can people check out more of your work, your Instagram, your other networks, whatever?
Well, everything is just Big Head Taco. So my Twitter is @bigheadtaco, @bigheadtaco for Instagram. My YouTube channel is bigheadtaco.
Nice.
My blog is bigheadtaco.com. So yeah, I picked a weird name because
it's easy to remember.
I have people driving past screaming out, "Hey, Taco!"
That's
they don't even
awesome.
know my real. I think when we first met, you didn't know what to call me.
Yeah,
and that's great. I was happy. It's like, perfect.
So what is your real name?
My name is Take Kayo. My full name is Mune Take Kayo. And I always had my name mispronounced growing up, and I always wanted a name like Bob, Jack. But now that I'm older, I realize it's a distinct part of who I am, is this ethnic name that I have, and now I embrace it. And then in a way, I'm just making fun of my name.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So.
Well, yeah. Thank you so much, Take/Taco. Cindy, you want to wait for the camera?
All right. Cindy, sorry, Cindy.
All right. So check out more of Taco's stuff, and yeah, catch you guys on Instagram. Peace out.
Take care. Peace.